So I got into the Muppets recently, so that sort of changed the trajectory of my life. Only mild hyperbole. It's super mild hyperbole. But yeah, I always kind of knew about the Muppets. I always kind of knew about Jim Henson. I had watched Dark Crystal. I watched like the beginning of the Labyrinth, which is crazy that like I watched that before anything else. And like I knew in some way that the Muppets and like Sesame Street were related, but I knew nothing about like the Muppets. I was exposed to the Muppets like via like, of all things, the Muppet Mobile Lab and like Epcot. But other than that, like I sort of like always looked in to like what the Muppets were. And I of course like had seen Muppet Vision 3D, and it like sort of struck me as something that was sort of like, oh, that's pretty neat. That's a pretty cool show. But then like sort of the D23 Parks panels were happening, and I'm not gonna get into all of that. But it sort of led me to like look into the Muppets more because I knew they were like iconic, but I just never got around to watching anything that the Muppets were in. So I just decided to start with the like original classic movie, because I just thought that would be a good entry point. I didn't know like how in tandem like the relationship between the movie and the Muppet Show was, but I just decided to start with the movie. When the movie opened with Rainbow Connection, like such a poignant like song, I was just like taken aback. I was like, I'm in for the ride, because I just loved what was happening. It was just not what I expected from like the Muppets at the time, because again I had no preconception of like what the Muppets were other than the things that Jim Henson worked on, all the way from like Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth. Wide range, super wide range. When the movie started and Kermit was like sitting there with the banjo playing Rainbow Connection, I was just instantly hooked. I locked in because I wasn't expecting like this commentary about dreams to be put inside the beginning of a Muppet movie, you know? And just how it talked about the pureness of a dream, but it's only tangible, it only becomes real if you chase it, right? So when we look up into the sky, either day or night, we see the rainbows, we see stars, and they would only seem like magic if you're just looking at them, but they're nothing more than just lights and illusions. But they only have as much value as you put into them, right? You can only appreciate them by how much you're willing to value them, just like your own goals and dreams. Like you have to maintain the delusions, and you have to entertain and maintain your own delusions in order to chase after your dreams or your aspirations. What other people might call a delusion or something that has no worth, you have to still entertain that fact as you go forward and try to chase your own dream. And it's something that's so baked into what the Muppets are, because then I did learn that a lot of the Henson like history, where they really wanted to get a form of the Muppets to exist in some way, and there was Sam and Friends, then there was Sesame Street, then they were really trying to look for an opportunity to make something like the Muppet Show, and I just think you could feel that baked into the heart of this movie. And it wraps back up at the end like life's like a movie, keep believing, keep pretending. You have to feed into your own delusions to get anywhere, I feel like. And I think the Muppets really encapsulate that so well. Like when you've been able to like feed those delusions, you could sort of fulfill the promise that you made to yourself, either when you were younger, like earlier in your life. Like you can fulfill the promise that you made to yourself, not anyone else, but to your own aspirations and goals. And I thought that was just really cool, and you just see it all over the movie. The characters were also just so kind no matter what, like their interaction, meet cute, or whatever perception they had with each other when they first met, they always were able to extend a hand or a piece of advice or something towards each other, and like they were just so kind toward each other, like just unabashedly. Every single person in the movie, every single Muppet in the movie, they're people. But it was just so nice to see as they were extending a hand to join them to chase their dreams and go to Hollywood, right? It was just so cool. It was just really nice to see. So I just thought it was like a really inspiring film that like picks you up, right? It uplifts you without being something of like made of like pure like entertainment. And I feel like it can be enjoyed by like, the Muppets can be enjoyed by all audiences, and that's something that I'm realizing. Like, not only younger audiences who aspire to like go after what they believe that they are able to do, but it appeases to also people who are older and like more jaded audiences if they allow themselves to suspend their disbelief, because the movie just sort of I feel like it reaches out to those who might be lost or might be stuck, and people who feel like they haven't lived up to their potential, to say like it's okay to reach out to those feelings and sort of say it's okay to like chase your dreams, right? It's okay to like feel that you are compelled to do something greater than what you are currently doing. Just great storytelling, using the Muppets as a medium for something like that. But it's more than just the Muppets, it's the people behind the Muppets, because the Muppets are as fleshed out and real as any other person or actor. Like just using the Muppets in that way, just it feels like there's so much more heart in the movie, and it's more meaningfully told than so many other things that I've seen recently. So because of that, I went down the Muppets rabbit hole, okay? And in like 3 days, I watched the Muppets movie, I watched the Muppet Show, Muppet Christmas Carol, because I heard that was good, and then the Muppets movie, like the Disney Muppets movie. I'm obsessed with the Muppet Show now. I want to talk about like the Disney's Muppets really quickly, because I've only seen the first movie. So I think the Muppets is a good modernization of what the Muppets are, and I think it treats the Muppets with utmost respect. It feels like a Muppets movie. So again, it treats the Muppets as fully living and breathing characters who feel from what I got, it's like they have moved forward and they move on to other endeavors, but they still yearn to fulfill their creative sparks and come together as like a family, right? Because your family is also your home once you make it, and your home isn't something that you abandoned, it's something that you come back to, right? And so having that be sort of the Muppet Studio, I think was really cool. It feels like nostalgia that was done in the right way, that encapsulated the themes of what the movie was trying to say, separate from like the Muppet Show and just harkening back to what was, right? So I feel like anyone could watch this movie, right? People who grew up with the Muppets and know the Muppets, new people, like they could still understand like what's at stake here. The movie exists on its own, and I thought it really encapsulated what the Muppets could be in the modern day, like from a modern interpretation of the Muppets, because the Muppets are basically like real people at the end of the day. Like the world exists and the Muppets are in it. It's basically just our world, just the Muppets injected into it at that point in time, so they're free to explore any sort of theme that we experience. So you could just do so much with the Muppets, and I thought this was a good thing to do for like a comeback movie, right? Like the movie does have substance outside of that, because I liked how they use like Jason Segel and like Walter and Mary, a mixture of like their real names and like the names in the movie. But I liked how they use them as sort of like a parallel or like a metaphor for the Muppets like moving on and trying to figure out who they are, because you have to embrace like all sides of you to become the best version of yourself, right? You can't just abandon something that was an important part of you, right? So having Man or a Muppet, or just having that theme of, you know, Jason Segel and Walter throughout the movie and starting with them, again, like it shows that there's substance in this movie outside of like what nostalgia is baked into this movie because of the Muppet Show and harkening back to it. That was like a bit vague, but it goes back to cherishing every part of you, so you can be the best version of what you are. And I think that still comes across no matter who watches this movie, right? You could be a Muppety man, you could be a manly Muppet, you're still the person that you want to become, but you still have to cherish like every part of you. And because of that, I think it's a good extension of the original Muppets movie. I feel it works. It feels natural. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen with me and the Muppets in the future, but I am obsessed with the Muppets now. I'm gonna watch every movie. I'm gonna watch like all episodes of the Muppet Show. I'm just gonna dive straight in. But yeah, now that I've talked about something new, let's talk about something old. Not old, but like old for me, something that I've been around in the community for like a while. So Splatoon 3, I've been playing more Splatoon 3, and it's going nowhere in my life ever at all. I've been into it for like 9 years, been playing for like 7 years. It's going nowhere. I just got to A+ rank in ranked mode, which is weird because I don't think I've ever had an A+ rank. I think I've been A rank like 2 for like a couple modes, but I'm A+ inside of like Splatoon 3. Like I sort of like effectively learned how to play Clan Blitz now. Like I have a style. Like I have a way to feel like I'm being useful whenever I'm playing Clan Blitz, you know? So I've sort of just adopted the strategy specifically for Clan Blitz to just relax and take things as I see it. Like I adopted like a goalie post near like the front of the map, right? Where I sort of just observe and take things as I see it, right? If you rush or if you push forward for an objective at a time on the map, you just sort of isolate yourself. And it just leaves others to like take advantage of you isolating yourself on the map. So taking that like goalie position at the back, being able to analyze others' movements and sort of take advantage of like the faults in their patterns, allows you to like see openings within like their movement cycles, right? It's almost like life, where you have to sit back and analyze what other people are doing, but still not do what they're doing in terms of like pushing for an objective or something like that. It's just taking it in and then doing what you think is best in the moment inside of Clan Blitz. I see the code. The game is sort of wrapping up its life cycle. The Grand Festival is next month, and the wristband just came out, and I'm like, oh, I want the wristband. And it feels a bit weird getting to play like in Splatfest for 7 years and then watching for an additional 2. So like 9 years of Splatoon. It makes some of it like really impactful because I don't think I've like been around a series since like its beginning the way I have been Splatoon, right? So it's sort of impactful, and I get too emotional sometimes about it. I think one of those reasons is like it's one of the few games that I have played that still feels like a living, breathing world. Like it feels somewhat tangible. Seeing like the player model grow and change over time, seeing like the idol's characterization with the story and their music grow over time, and how like all the characters connect and change throughout the years. I feel like it just culminated in the Grand Festival, right? Rather than the normal Splatfest or a story mode, like Octo expansion or side order, Splatoon is always growing in that sort of sense. So I feel like Splatfest are special because it's not just, you know, the hubs. At night now, we're putting cool lights everywhere, and we get to choose a side to like fight for. Splatfests feel so much bigger than they are because it's sort of like a point in time where people get to celebrate and cherish that which they like, and basically create their own mini holiday, which is just so cool. And it sort of reaches out to people online in the real world who debate like the same kind of topics, right? So having Splatoon have like this team-based system where you choose a side over like frivolous things, and then they don't just try to make an argument, they choose to make it like a celebration. I thought that was just a really cool concept of just having a festival where you choose a side to fight for. It just reaches out to people in the real world because people do the same thing on the internet. It's the same thing, we're just choosing to celebrate it and mark a point in time to dedicate that to inside of Splatoon. So seeing these sort of events built out of the love of connection, music, and how time affects not only the game but also affects you, you can sort of like mark yourself in the point in time and remember a point that you were when you were playing Splatoon. Compacting that with the music in all the games and the music that's made for the games, it's like Splatoon builds nostalgia while also looking forward in terms of celebrating that which exists now, but also being able to mark a point in time where you intrinsically remember what you were doing, how you felt, and everything that was happening during that time. And it's built off of the thing that connects everyone across the world, no matter where you come from, which is music. It shows the power of music and how it connects everyone, no matter what place they come from or where they come from, as we debate frivolous topics. I feel like Splatoon will always be timeless because its core is ever changing and adapts to whatever people are going through at any time. Again, I'm extrapolating on like a Squid Game, but there's so much in Splatoon, right? And that's not even talking about the world building. Oh my gosh, there's so much textured world building in Splatoon that most people just don't know about. It's just crazy. So I appreciate not only just the game design, not only just the world building, not only just the music, but I appreciate that Nintendo, they feel the need to keep Splatoon alive beyond just the game. And even if it was just within the game, the universe would feel so alive. But how they choose to connect what happens in the game with real life, and how we can all relate to music, the topics that we choose to discuss and debate over. I just love Splatoon. It's so cool. I don't know what the future of Splatoon is like after the Grand Festival, but hey, I'll be around. I'll be around. I really want that wristband. So, Jujutsu Kaisen, JJK, ending, 5 chapters. While I did expect it to end before like November, I will say like 5 chapters seems a bit abrupt for now. Like Yaku Tommy did say that the next chapter is the climax, so we'll see about that. However, I have enjoyed these last few chapters with Yuji and Sukuna and sort of exploring like their characters. It's sort of come like full circle, and we get to revisit the differences between that which composes Sukuna and Yuji. This is sort of something that I wanted since the beginning of the series. Like I wanted the series to end in some way that encapsulates the differences and the contrast in how Yuji and Sukuna interpret like emotions. Yuji, who's obviously way more human, places value on like small and insignificant things that we see in like these chapters, right? He's expressing that to Sukuna in these chapters. All the things that Yuji talks about adds up to all the small things that you should appreciate in life and that make up life in itself. That's what life is, like a collection of small moments over time that you learn to sort of appreciate. Having Yuji sort of express that really solidified this character arc in my mind. Gege Akutami sort of expressed the need to have Sukuna exist in the narrative in the first place, right? Why Sukuna exists above the narrative and why he is so sort of omniscient compared to all the other characters. Like, we all know how Sukuna is sort of omniscient and exists above the narrator, you know, how he exists to be not understood. But now I feel like we understand a bit more of like the authorial intent behind that, besides any theories that we could make up for that. But like Sukuna is inhuman because he places no value on the things that compose a person's life. He doesn't value anything relating to any small or insignificant moment that someone can learn to appreciate over time. He places no value on that which doesn't amuse him. He sort of casts everything away, any emotions that would basically make him a natural human to relate to. He's not relatable. Opposing this, we have Yuji, where Yuji, he's someone who, you know, sort of wished to guide everyone to a natural death as possible, right? Because of what his grandfather said to him. He just wanted to at least help people so that they felt something other than terror or fear in their last moments. He wanted to guide people to whatever a natural death even was, with the hope of preserving their humanity to the end, because that's what he places value upon. He sort of does that at the expense of his own, right? He's willingly become a cog in the machine that is the Jujutsu sorcerer system, which basically makes him akin to a soldier, right? Because it's what he thinks and what he believes that will be the best for him to do with the position that he was put in his life. Living with Sukuna inside of him, bearing the burden of the massacres that his own body was used for, only to be just thrown out by the person who used you in favor of using and embodying the person that was pretty much closest to him at the time, just left Yuji completely broken. I feel like you can't really break Yuji down more than how he felt when Sukuna took over Megumi, right? Even if he was told that, and he was essentially told that, just being used and then carted away is just so, it's just so painful at the end of the day. Until that moment where Yuji sort of had like everything that he had taken away from him that would impact his drive, he sort of like had a moment, and we see that through these last couple chapters, because he expressed that. He realized like the goal that was imparted upon him was sort of just fickle by the end, and that regardless of the concept of sort of a proper or natural death, regardless of what that even was, just the attempt to control any of the events that led to someone's death was just not reasonable or practical. But his need or want to do that still made him human at the end of the day. It preserved his humanity, the way that he felt like that. Those emotions and those feelings of that need or want to help people have the most natural end to their life, like was a natural one. That sort of that humanity is literally the key thing that he realized separated him from Sukuna. Sukuna just placed no value on anything like that. I feel like once Yuji and Sukuna separated, Yuji sort of just fully realized the value of his own humanity at the end of the day. Once he was separated from the demon that was literally inside of him, he realized like how valuable just even those wants or emotions are in the first place. Sukuna just cannot even see the value of someone being alive. He just sees no value in their own individual life other than those who challenge him with, you know, actual bravado and challenge. Like he was intrigued by, you know, Maki and Higuruma at first. He cherished his fight with Gojo, and we see that because he saw that Gojo also sort of cast everyone behind. For Gojo, he didn't want to. It sort of came natural with the spot in Jujutsu history, right? While I didn't like a lot of the things that happened in this arc, Gege Akutami had a vision for that final arc. I think I'm more optimistic going into these final few chapters than I was with like My Hero. For all the other loose threads, I don't really have that much faith that Gege will follow up with them or cover every point, because he's fine with just killing off characters. He's enacting the vision that we set out upon regardless of if we like any of the characters involved in that process. Like, we're not going to get anything related to the merger, I don't think, for the rest of the series. Like, yeah, Megumi can cause the merger, therefore Sukuna can cause the merger, but like, I don't know if that will happen when we have 5 chapters left. He just sort of axed off Kenny. You can extrapolate upon like his unfortunate end after he was fighting Takuma, where you two just like came up and blitzed him, and how that feeds into the point of what death even means, like what natural death even means. And I think Gege really, he knew that going into it, because he's like, how someone dies is just fickle, so he can use that as a plot device to make entertaining content, which is unfortunate for exploring characters and their intent and meaning beyond what they just exist as. But you know what, we stay through it. It's still a good series. He does just sort of have a scapegoat, not like a narrative scapegoat, but he has a thematic scapegoat that you could just always point to. Well, guess what happened? This put a wrench in everything. This is why I should edit faster. It's not even coming out on a Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Like, this is what I wanted to happen in like an alternate universe. I've been saying this since, you know, she died in Shibuya, but she didn't die, and then I knew she would be too OP for the calling games. But then, oh my god, I wanted this to happen, but not this way. Oh my gosh. At least I'm glad that we got good major character work with arguably the 2 main characters of the series. That's what I wanted. I just wanted some great character work with Yuji and Sukuna, and we got that, and I'm very glad that we got that. That's what makes me more optimistic about the last few chapters than, let's say, My Hero. But that's it for the weekly wrap up.